This is ArtsAlive. I'm Lynda Philippi. My guests are, we have Jason Buehrer back for an encore performance, and we also have Joe Silva, who is directing The Trip to Bountiful at Mask and Mirror Theater. So welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing? It's nice to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. So Joe, let's start with you. You're directing this historic production. I mean, it's been around a while and people have done it, stage, screen, moving picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And just about everywhere. Well, The Trip to Bountiful is a beautiful play, and I'm going to try and present my own take on it at this community theater in Tigard/Tualatin, Mask and Mirror. Mm-hmm. And it's just a beautiful show. And I'm very fortunate to have a great cast, and we're in our third week of rehearsals now.
I mean, it seems, you know, you could talk a little bit for people that might not be familiar with the, you know, sort of the play itself, but it seems to be hitting on a subject that's probably pretty close to home for a lot of people, including me, you know, dealing with the aging parent, you know, what do you do, how does that work, the dynamics of caring for somebody perhaps in your home.
It's all of that and much more.
Mm-hmm.
The typical production of The Trip to Bountiful focuses on a story about an elderly woman who longs for the past and wants to go home, and she makes a break and goes home. My take on it is a little bit different. My take is that it's about a family, and a family in which all three of them have very specific needs, and so they are all, instead of an elderly woman and two bad guys, there's actually three good people in this show. Caught in a situation. The situation is that Mrs. Watts, the mother, is living in an apartment with her son, Ludi, and his wife, Jessie May. They've been there 20 years, and the city and the small apartment and just the clash of personalities has kind of depleted her soul. And she just feels a very strong need to go back to Bountiful. And she periodically runs away, and they usually catch her and bring her home. And this time she makes it, and she has an odyssey of sort, you know, 2 bus trips, and she makes it, only to learn that her hopes and dreams were misplaced, because you can never go home. And
20 years later, nobody's there. It's not the same. Right.
And her son and daughter-in-law catch up to her in Bountiful. And by the time they catch up to her, she realizes that she has to find happiness and peace and contentment where she is and who she is with, and that what she's been longing for all this time, she already had, which is her family. Mm-hmm. And so that's the arc of the show. And the show can't have that arc unless all three of those characters have their individual arcs.
Right.
And so I'm paying very, very close attention to the son and the daughter-in-law.
So he's not just henpecked, and the daughter-in-law is not just, you know, a petty tyrant. I mean, these are real people, and this woman has had her mother-in-law living with her 20 years.
That's absolutely right.
Let's face it.
Yeah. No, and the daughter-in-law is always played as a brutal tyrant. Mm-hmm. And as I read the script, she is not that. She is trapped in her own disappointments.
Of course.
And deserves our sympathy as much as the mother-in-law. In fact, I've come to realize in the rehearsal process, and maybe mm-hmm. Jason's seen this as well, is that the mother-in-law, Mrs. Watts, who is usually seen as the heroine of the story, is really the antagonist. Because she's the one that's driving this, I got to get out of here, I got to do this, I got to do that.
Yeah, they could potentially...
And upsetting the nest.
Yeah, they could potentially have had, like, you know, sort of a festive, happy little marriage, just the two of them, kind of romantic, kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then there's this discontented old lady in there who's, you know, whose unhappiness is probably poisoning the well to some extent.
Right, right. And before we start sounding like a downer, they're all very lovely characters.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
They're very rich and detailed, mm-hmm. and the relationship is just so much fun
It's
to
like
watch.
life.
Yeah, it's a lot like life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what I like about the way that Joe's directing this is that it's a kind of a discovery of self-worth. Each of them has something that they find worthy about themselves, and the way Joe is putting this production together is we get to go along on that discovery with them. It's not the tyrannical approach and the lackadaisical approach that I've seen in other productions. They all are actualized by the end of it, which is really a wonderful way to do it.
So what's interesting is that, I mean, it's the same script every time. The words are the same, but it's a matter of how people come to perceive the character.
Correct.
and how they make those words come alive, and the way they say them, and the way they move with each other, and right.
Absolutely.
Looking at each other, breathing, touching, pauses, whether or not something is said with humor or with a kind of a dig. It's very subtle stuff, and the director has so much he or she can play with. And I mean, that's the joy of directing.
Which is really fun for you.
Yes, yes, because you get to tell the story the way you see it, although you're right, the words are always the same.
But as we all know, I mean, the same sentence can have, number of meanings.
Oh, exactly.
Even the way you say it can change the meaning of a sentence, or the way it's delivered with the physicality to it. That could totally change the meaning.
So, what's it been like to be working with Jason here?
Oh, piece of cake. He joined because he's interested in fandom, and approached me, and I said, well, sure, with one caveat, and that is if you study something. He wants to come in and study why people do community theater, why they involve themselves in a production. So when you study something as something apart, you change it, and I can't have that. So I said, if you're coming in as part of the team.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he's gone to work, and I've had him reading parts and schlepping chairs around and moving scenery and running tasks. And being part of the family does not make him something that's like looking at us under a microscope. It makes him one of us. And then obviously he has the freedom to write whatever he sees at the end of this process.
There was a short time during auditions where I was worried I was actually going to get cast in the lead role.
Came close.
Were you worried about being Carrie? Or
No, Ludi, actually.
It's like, oh, please, don't make me have to wear a bonnet.
Bonnet didn't bother me. Being on stage was what would have bothered me. I don't communicate that way, unfortunately. I've tried, but...
Well, in community theater, you don't know who's going to show up or how many are going to show up. And in this case, I had lots of good choices for the female roles and more limited choices for the male roles. And so you end up making a call. Do I work with what I have, or should I start working the phones?
Cast a wider net, yeah.
Yeah, we started working the phones, and yeah, I came close.
But you ended up with a far better Ludi than I would have ever been. Blake is a wonderful...
Well, you would have been great, but Blake is awesome.
Yes.
Blake is awesome. I have a great cast, Lynda.
How many people are in the cast?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So small enough that you can really work with them well. It's not like you've got 40 singers and dancers on stage.
It's very intimate, and they get along together well. But we have the 3 family members. We have Thelma, which is a young lady that Mrs. Watts meets on the bus, and we have the sheriff, who's a kind man who helps her make the last leg of her journey, and we have some ticket takers.
Nice. Okay.
What else can I tell you?
I don't know. I mean, you're in rehearsals now.
Yes.
And well, one of the things that we'll all want to know is, when do you open?
Yes, okay, we open February 27th.
Okay.
We run through March 20. This particular show is Friday and Saturday performances only. So we have an evening performance each Saturday, no Fridays, and a matinee each Sunday. I hope I said that correct. There are no performances on Fridays. We have Saturday evenings and Sunday matinees only.
Okay, and where is Mask and Mirror?
It's in Tigard/Tualatin at the Calvin Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
Don't have the address memorized.
Well, that's all right. But I'm sure there's probably a website.
Yes.
It's maskandmirrors.com.
Okay, so that people can just go and research this if they're interested in getting a ticket or whatever.
It might be .org.
Actually, I think you're right. Maskandmirror.org.
I was going to say, because we're not supposed to say .com on this show, but I was assuming that you probably meant .org because
did.
it's community theater,
Yeah, Jason said
which
it.
means it's not only not for profit, there's no profit.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No problem.
Yeah, we're just scraping along.
Just lots of fun.
Lots of fun. And how long have you been working with Mask and Mirror?
This is my first production with them, and I hope to be invited back. So I've been at it. It's been probably almost a year since the original proposal. And,
Really? Okay.
And they go through their play reading process and their selection process, and then they pick a season, and you get a show, and then when it finally comes around, you hold your auditions and run it.
Did you choose the show?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you said, if I'm chosen, I'd like to direct Bountiful.
Yes, I proposed for that show specifically. I have a list of maybe 8 or 9 shows that I'm kind of dying to do.
Oh, really?
And so, and I have wanted to have a greater exposure in the Portland area. So I've been going to different theaters with the shows that I'd like to do. And if there's a match, we got it made. If there's not a match, I don't want to direct just for the sake of it. There are certain shows that really inspire me, and those are the ones that I'm kind of shopping around.
So it's kind of interesting because you're also a writer.
Yes.
Okay, so you're a writer, you're a director, you've done a little bit smattering of everything,
Yep.
except actually jump on stage and act. So are you working on a play at this point yourself?
Yes, I just finished one. It's called From Time to Time. And then I had a real burst of energy, and within a couple weeks after finishing that, I've got the first act of my next one, which is called Remix.
So what's it like to be directing one sort of, I mean, I guess you could call it a classic because it's been done a lot for a number of years.
It is a classic.
And then to be working on finishing one play, working on another one, how is that for you?
Oh, it's fine. It's fun. It gives me variety because one is kind of a lonely occupation, and the other one you're out and about and you're dealing with people very intimately, and working as a team, and sort of, it's a very communal sort of experience. I'm lucky in that I'm retired, and so I have my mornings free, my afternoons free. So I spend my time I'm on the board of directors at Pinnacle Theater in Salem, and then I just volunteer for different theaters.
So do you typically, write in the morning and then, is that your writing time is mornings?
That sounds so disciplined.
I know.
I'm kind of right.
Ish. Anyway, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it actually keeps you very busy. I mean, if you get bored with one thing, you can immediately flip over to the next one. It's a very Miyazaki way of writing. He's got over 15 or 20 projects going at any one time, and when he gets tired of one, he moves on to the next one, and that keeps him fresh and active.
You know, I think that painters do that a lot too, or anybody who's doing creative work. You've got several things going, and that way, if you hit a block, rather than sit there and go, I've hit a block, oh God, what now? You just say, you know what, I'll go over here and work on this.
That's right. That's when you
Come
pick
back.
up the guitar and you do that.
Absolutely. Keeps you busy. Anything to keep the juices flowing.
Keeps you out of the cookies.
Absolutely.
Because that's the other problem of working at home, right? Is there's always that, I'm bored, scrabbling in the kitchen.
It's interesting when I was working in semiconductors and we were looking for engineers. Part of the interview process for an engineer is to see if they are creative. And if you're hiring creative people, you kind of ask questions about, well, what do you do in your off time, this and that, and you look to see if they're doing other creative things. Because creative people are like that. They just always have to be generating something.
Some little project, right?
So
Well, let's just, because we're out of time, so let's run back through your dates again for the trip to Bountiful at Mask and Mirror Theater.
February 27th through March 20, Friday, no Friday shows.
Saturday night, date night.
Saturday night is date night, and it's a good show to take a date. It's a really good show for that. And then Sunday matinees.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, we will look forward to that, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming today. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having us back. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Take care.
Take care.
Take care.